was not ideal. Actually, on the night we're talking about water conservation, we get torrential rain. So I want to thank Mayor Wu for joining us tonight. I've got some staff here to help too if we need with answering questions. We're also streaming this, so hopefully people are able to watch this online. My name is Gary Janzen. I'm the Director of Public Works and Utilities for the City of Wichita. We're going to talk to you about what we're going to do, and then I've got a brief presentation to show. So I'm going to talk through our new outdoor watering schedule. We're going to show a short video that kind of talks about some of the same things. I've got some frequently asked questions that we'll run through and I'll provide answers to as we've gone through what we've done with the drought over the last several years, so that, because a lot of those are the same questions, and then we'll have an open forum for question and answer after that. So I'm going to get started. So our City Council enacted a new ordinance that restricts watering to every other day. It's not exactly every other day. We kind of started with that premise. We looked to see what other communities had done. Oklahoma City, El Paso's done this. Aurora, Colorado is a very similar size to Wichita. We started with every other day. We settled on 3 days a week for several reasons. That gave us one day, Monday, with no watering for some additional conservation. In working with our landscape experts, those from K-State Extension, Sedgwick County Extension, and others, 3 days a week is really optimum for watering, for keeping yards in a good place, for landscaping. There are some variances that I'll get to in a moment for new yards in particular, but this is going to be our watering schedule going forward. Based on where we've been with the drought that's impacted our surface water supply over the last few years, we're in a better place now, but we want to look long-term, and we think this makes a lot of sense for the best way for conservation. So watering will not be allowed between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Any type of watering, including hand watering, which I'll talk more about in a moment. I mentioned no watering on Mondays. If you're on the odd side of the street, water on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Even side is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. There are some nuances to this. There's going to be some things that come up we probably hadn't thought about. We had a question asked today, if you have an address that ends in a half number, because there are some, when do you water? The easiest answer is the number in front of it is also odd or even, so you're going to still water with those folks on the same side of the street. We recognize that there may not be a perfect situation for everybody. We've already heard from some folks who live in planned communities that all water at the same time. We're going to work with everybody on exceptions where needed. This is not meant to be challenging. It'll take some time to work through it, but I'm confident we can get there because it's worked well in other communities. This just shows the same thing, but it's a little bit easier to see visually. With no watering on Mondays, even address is Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, odd Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And again, no watering between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. This will go into effect September 15th. We will make a declaration at that point in time that we are moving from drought response stage 2 to stage 1, which is when the 12-month running average at Cheney Reservoir reaches 70%, which is effectively where we are at now. So we would be removing the watering restrictions for 1 day a week that was in drought response stage 2 to this new plan, this is our new normal going forward, and this will continue in perpetuity. So talking about variances, we do want to be flexible with this. We want people to be able to get back to kind of where we were before without allowing watering every single day. So there's online request form available at savewichitawater.com, and I'm going to show that here in just a moment. The two main places where we're going to allow variances is for establishment of yards. We've heard from a lot of people who over the last 2 years had to put off doing anything with their yard. We want to be able to get back to being able to do that. So for reseeding, we'll allow up to 30 days of consecutive watering with an application. We've already received 4 or 5 applications, so this process is open. Sodding, we would allow up to 21 days of daily watering, and then there's special circumstances that we'll work on. Again, talking to other communities, Oklahoma City in particular, who's done this. They said, you never know what might come up. We're not going to offer a variance for conveniences, for when someone wants to mow their yard or to meet work schedules or whatever. We do want to be flexible, but we're going to try to stay to this as much as we can. It's really going to do the best for us to continue to focus on outdoor discretionary watering, which is where we really need to conserve long term. Exceptions that do not require a variance request include hand watering, as I mentioned, Still can't water by hand, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's no watering at all. We're just going to make that very clean and easy. Irrigation using non-potable water sources, including water wells, which I'll talk about more here in just a moment, or reclaimed water. I do want to go to this link that we just showed. Again, savewichitawater.com will take you to this location about permanent outdoor watering schedule. This talks about starting September 15th, year-round lawn watering schedules will be in place for Wichita, and this is applicable to all of our wholesale customers. So we have 11 wholesale customers, that's 8 neighboring cities, 3 rural water districts. Anybody that gets water from Wichita, this includes Andover residents, Derby, and a lot of the surrounding communities. This has got the same information I talked about with odd and even addresses, no watering on Mondays, time restrictions. The variance request information is included here. We have a variance policy that I'm not going to open because I want to open up the variance request form. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. We've had a handful of requests already. You have to be, obviously, Wichita Utility account, have an account with Wichita Utility. If we're going to allow a variance, I will tell you too, and this is within the information that's provided, you have to be current on your account before we're going to allow a variance. We will work through everybody on that. Provide information, provide the request type, whether it's for sodding or seeding, the date when that is to begin, explanation of the variance. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. We have contact information for our staff. At the bottom of this first page, contact pw@wichita.gov. We'll get directly to my staff so they can help answer questions. And I think we'll be able to work through all of this as we move along. Again, there'll be some things I think that will come up, but we want to work with folks again, especially on being able to establish yards. With the watering that's allowed, including the hand watering, except for 10 to 6, it's going to help with being able to plant trees if they need more water than the 3 days a week. So exemptions outlined in stage 2 of our drought response plan for businesses that generate their core economic activity from the usage of outdoor water would still apply. So those businesses like nurseries, landscape companies, sod farms, anybody that uses water for their business, they are not restricted to the 3 days a week. They can still water every day of the week, just as they could during our formal drought restrictions. This is not about enforcement, but we still do have a penalty schedule in place, just as we did with the drought response plan. The penalty schedule will be the same. Citizens can report a drought violation online. This is about education and collaboration. It always has been. Even as we went through a year and a half, almost 2 years completely, total of drought restrictions, there weren't that many penalties that were even administered because most people got on board. We saw a significant save. We're hoping to see the same here. The other communities we've talked to, they said it took a little bit of time. People got on board. We don't have the resources. We don't have the staff for enforcement. We want to see everybody get on board and protect our water supply for the long term. As I mentioned, this applies to wholesale customers too. So just to give you kind of a visual of what this looks like, permanent restrictions apply to irrigation devices. Sprinkler devices, whether they're on a hose, whether they're in ground, something that's an automatic irrigation device, that's what it applies to. It does not apply to hand watering, whether it's by a water bucket, whether it's by a hose. We also want folks to be able to fill their pools whenever that works. As when we were in drought restrictions, we asked that pools be filled on the same day of watering. That's not so much as critical now. We're still asking for everybody to conserve water anywhere that they can. Helps us all long term so that we can push off future restrictions to 1 day a week. Hopefully we don't see stage 2 of our drought response plan anytime soon, but we're going to bring the city fountains back online next spring. We would encourage others to do the same, again, keeping conservation in mind. Our water conservation rebate program will be revised. It currently still includes all of the same things we've provided rebates for in the past: rain barrels, rain sensor shutoffs. It includes devices within the home that are water-saving devices, clothes washers, and dishwashers. None of that has changed, but we will expand the rebate program to include drought-tolerant seeds for converting lawns. So these are grass seeds that have to be warm season grasses for those who want to try to convert their lawns. We're going to provide rebates for that too. We'll provide resources on how to convert lawns and landscaping to more native and drought-resistant plants and less water-intensive options. And again, keep up our focus on education, lawn care maintenance to reduce overwatering and over-fertilizing habits. You know, I think over the last year, as we've been in restrictions, we've done a really good job with education and collaboration and people understanding what can be done different going forward. You don't need water on your yard 7 days a week. It was never needed. So this is going to be good for us changing the culture going forward in the future. So wrapping this up, and then I'm going to get to some frequently asked questions. I mentioned before, but I would say it again, these measures do not replace the drought response plan. So on September 15th, we will move back into stage 1. We will keep going with the 12-month running average. At some point in time, when we get back to 90%, we will lift stage 1 of the drought response plan, but we're still going to stay there on that 12-month average. At any point in time, if we get to 69% or less, we could would go back into stage 2 of drought restrictions. So that stays on the table. That's always going to be a part of who we are. The 3 days per week watering restrictions, again, are going to begin on September 15th. We'll have a lot of information out to the public on that day, 1 week from today. Our internal conservation measures and the water rebate program will be made permanent. Education and outreach will continue for these conservation efforts, especially for property lawn care and landscaping guidance. That's all I had for that. I want to answer some questions that we frequently get. If you give me just 1 minute, and then I'll come back to the opportunity for questions, and we'll have folks come up to the mic if you don't mind. So let me answer some questions that come up quite a bit. We get asked a question about well users and why they were exempt. They were exempt before. They will continue to be exempt in Kansas. Those who have, in Kansas, everyone has the rights to the water that's below their property up to 2 acres. That is the law. So the permits that are issued from the city of Wichita for domestic wells include that part of it. The domestic wells that we have little impact on the local aquifer. What they do, it gets recharged by the Big Arc River. We have been able to show that domestic wells in Wichita do not impact our groundwater supply within the equus beds. That's a good thing. We still need to conserve water. We still encourage anybody with a well to conserve as much water as they can. There's no need to be watering when it's raining. There's still no need to water 7 days a week. But the fact is that those with wells will be exempt even from the 3 days a week. We've had the question asked as we've gone through the last year and a half, especially under 1 day a week watering restrictions, why we don't build another reservoir. And there's a couple of quick reasons. I won't spend a lot of time on it. Our quick estimate to build a new reservoir is in excess of $500 million. You've got to have the space to do it, and it's still dependent on the weather. It's still dependent on precipitation. Our challenges over the last 2 years were because of a lack of precipitation coming into Cheney Reservoir. If we had built another reservoir in some fashion, all we would do right now is have 2 reservoirs half full of water. It's the same area, still draining into it, but there's so many other factors involved from a permitting and a permission standpoint that it's just not practical. Same type of question has come up about why we don't dredge Cheney Reservoir and increase the capacity. We have for many, many years very wisely invested and had a strategic plan for controlling the sediment into the reservoir. We've invested in watershed protection measures, and based on the last study that was done of Cheney Reservoir, we've only lost about 7% of the volume to sediment, which is pretty remarkable since the early 1960s. As a comparison, Tuttle Creek Reservoir in Manhattan has lost over half of its capacity to sedimentation. So it's an expensive proposition. It's not worth it for what little we would gain at Cheney Reservoir. We talked about hand watering. We get a lot of questions about what hand watering is. Hand watering is anything we talked about that's not an actual irrigation device. We've talked about exemptions from restrictions. This ordinance is permanent. This is what we're doing long-term going forward. 3 days is our new norm. We're going to make it a point. The City of Wichita organization is doing the same thing already. In fact, I don't think we've even changed from 1 day a week. We haven't, because we're still under that till September 15th, but we will continue to conserve as much as we can. With that, I'm going to open it up to question and answer. I would ask anybody who has questions to come to the microphone, please, and we'll have a 3-minute limit, if you would please.
For the past 10 years, I've been carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I've told the school, I have told the court about Cortez Fleming and Trenton Hughes. I think that this water program is the same program that Josh Wren's brothers sold, the agricultural program, to the CIA. I contacted the CIA and the FBI today for additional help. I've asked the U.S. District Attorney for help, and I've asked the mayor for help. It's recently come to my attention that Lily Wu has also went to elementary school with Maurice Terrell, which is what started the Third World War. Now, I am asking for help one last time, and if no one helps me, I will see you all in court. Have a good day. Let's go.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Couple of questions. Up until earlier this month, we had been keeping track of our 12-month rolling average of how Cheney was doing, and that appears to have stopped at the beginning of the month. Was there a reason why?
It hasn't stopped. We probably haven't adjusted the data yet. We're still tracking, and so let me be clear. We're basically at 70% now. Especially because we're almost a foot above conservation pool. We're into the flood pool. So I think we're at 70% based on the numbers I heard from staff last week. Next week, when this goes into effect on the 15th, I'll make sure that number's updated. We're going to keep that dashboard on there because we'll move into stage 1 at that point. We're going to keep that going until we get to 90% before we lift stage 1. And if for whatever reason we get an extremely dry rest of the year and a dry spring and we start going back the other way, we'll have to consider whether we go back into stage 2. So
I think it's a useful tool. I've been checking it every week. I was just surprised that it hadn't been updated.
You are correct. We just hadn't quite updated that yet, but we're still moving with
Fair
that.
enough.
Yep, thank you. Anybody else? So for those that are here, not many are left, there is some information up there on the table if you're interested, including kind of a flyer about the alternate day watering. There's also a paper form of the variance request. And again, our contact information is that all of this can be found at savewichitawater.com. Great information on there. Our contact information is at the bottom. If you've got any questions, we're happy to answer that. We're excited to move forward with this. There are going to be, I'll just say one more time, there's going to be some things that come up. We've heard from some areas that the odd and even doesn't quite fit, and we'll work through it. So hopefully people will reach out, contact us, ask questions, and we'll find a way to work through that. So if we've got nothing else, thank you for those that were here, those that are online, and we're happy to answer any questions after today.